Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, March 11th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. There's a chance for drizzle in the morning, with clouds clearing by the afternoon. It should be humid with a high of 81 degrees today. Rain chances stick around through Sunday with a cold front on the way. Congress approved a sweeping $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package on Wednesday, authorizing a flurry of new federal spending and a temporary yet dramatic increase in anti-poverty programs to help millions of families still struggling amid the pandemic. President Joe Biden directed his administration to order another 100 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine, growing a likely U.S. surplus of doses later this year while much of the rest of the world struggles with deep shortages. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Border Patrol reported more than 100,000 encounters with migrants crossing into the U.S. from Mexico in February, according to figures the agency released on Wednesday that illustrate the growing surge of people seeking amnesty that has quickly become a major political dilemma for the Biden administration. We've seen surges before, Roberta Jackson, a former diplomat serving as Biden's border czar, said during a White House press briefing. Surges tend to respond to hope, and there was significant hope for a more humane policy after 4 years of pent-up demand. But officials stress the administration is still turning away the vast majority of migrants who arrived and blame the Trump administration for pushing politics that didn't just neglect our immigration system, they intentionally made it worse. Benjamin Wermund has more in his latest story. Governor Greg Abbott's orders lifting Texas's mask mandate and occupancy limits at businesses took effect Wednesday. Yet, many San Antonians continued donning face coverings during their trips to the store. And some retailers are still requiring shoppers and store employees to mask up despite controversy that's raged over mask rules. They've also kept in place signage and floor stickers reminding patrons to social distance. Read Madison Eisler's report from local retailers over at expressnews.com. Similar precautions remained in place at bars, restaurants, beauty salons, and gyms across San Antonio. Jacob Beltran has more from the Riverwalk and the Northside Gym over on our website as well. San Antonio's paid sick leave ordinance has suffered yet another setback. The Texas Fourth Court of Appeals on Wednesday shot down a move by San Antonio officials to implement the ordinance while a coalition of local firms and business groups try to have the law struck down. The ordinance, which has been on hold for more than a year, will stay on hold while the lawsuit makes its way through the legal system. But in the course of its action Wednesday, the three-judge panel made it clear it believes the ordinance is unconstitutional. Joshua Fechter has more on what happens next in his latest article. Columnist Elena Ayala writes, quote, "The great many of us can't relate to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on most levels. They're, after all, ultra-rich Californians with British titles and lucrative business deals ahead of them. But on the universal issues of loneliness and isolation, now better understood because of the coronavirus pandemic, and the dangers of mental health unchecked, there was common ground. In time, we may learn of the perceptions of other royals and how true the couple's stories are, but they rang with authenticity. Overnight, they turned a family drama into a national crisis. Overnight, a TV special became a world news event." Check out Elena Ayala's full column over at expressnews.com. All Texans 50 years old and older will be eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine starting Monday, expanding the pool of possible recipients to nearly half of the state's population. Now the question is how to find a shot. We're keeping an updated list of San Antonio area vaccine providers on our Vaccine Frequently Asked Questions page. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. The number of people hospitalized with COVID-19 fell Wednesday to the lowest level in more than 4 months. San Antonio hospitals were caring for 250 COVID-19 patients, the lowest figure since November 3rd. To the dismay of some teachers and parents, Comal Independent School District, one of the region's fastest growing, has made masks optional for students and staff members. Texas has surpassed more than 7 million COVID-19 vaccination doses administered. Top public health officials told the Texas Senate as Governor Greg Abbott lifted all capacity limits for businesses and ended government-imposed mask mandates in the state. A Bexar County family whose house was destroyed by a fire during last month's winter storm is blaming CPS Energy. In a lawsuit, the family alleges the intermittent power supply during last month's winter storm triggered a fire in a heating unit in their mobile home. The Spurs have mutually agreed to find a new home for LaMarcus Aldridge, either by trade or buyout. 35-year-old Aldridge will remain away from the team while the Spurs work to find a new opportunity for him. Residents of a Northwest Side neighborhood were evacuated Wednesday after a man was seen with a rifle, police said. The evacuation was precautionary and there was no threat to neighbors, according to SAPD spokesperson Corey Schuler. History advocates say the remains of the former bacon-stewing dairy farm are among the last vestiges of San Antonio's once thriving dairy farming industry. But some residents blast the empty structure as a drug den. The barn was denied historic landmark designation. In a stunning move, the union that represents San Antonio firefighters will not back past ally Greg Brockhouse in his bid to unseat Mayor Ron Nirenberg, union leaders said on Wednesday. 3 women who went to visit a doctor in Mexico have not been heard from for almost a week and may have been kidnapped, the FBI said. Texas congressional Democrats are urging Governor Greg Abbott to expand the state's vaccine eligibility to include farmers, agricultural employees, and workers at meatpacking plants. They noted the CDC recommends including food and agricultural employees in this phase of the vaccine rollout. Texas-based Venus Aerospace is designing a space plane that will travel 12 times faster than the speed of sound at an altitude of 150,000 feet, which is high enough to see the blackness of space. If Texas goes forward with the STAR exam, taxpayers will spend $90 million to learn what they already know. Texas students are in crisis, writes the Express News editorial board. Check out their latest editorial over at expressnews.com. For more than 120 years, peacocks have graced the grounds of Fort Sam's historic quadrangle, a tradition just a couple decades removed from the old Army post's own founding at the very spot in 1876. Today, close to 40 of those flamboyant birds brighten up the courtyard, roosting in a tree that overlooks a pond and fanning out their long, iridescent and eye-spotted feathers in contrast to the quad's limestone walls and watchtower. A handful of deer, duck, and geese also share the idyllic space, but it's the peacocks that turn the most heads, civilian and soldier alike. Renee Guzman has more all about the Fort Sam peafowl over at expressnews.com. You can't find coq au vin on every corner quite yet, but this much is undeniable. French food is finding its way back into San Antonio's dining landscape after a decade-long drought. We have everything you need to know about Brasserie Mon Chouchou, Bistro La Frite, and more over at expressnews.com. Photos of empty San Antonio venues like the Lonesome Rose, Majestic Theater, and Paper Tiger capture the toll of COVID-19 on live events. Read more about Bring Music Home, a coffee table book about live music venues during the COVID era, over at expressnews.com. If your dog is bored or anxious, we have 5 tips for helping them attain canine nirvana. St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, is a day to celebrate all things Irish, so why not include a movie? We have 5 options, some authentically Irish, while others are more in the spirit of a Kiss Me I'm Irish t-shirt or a mug of green beer. Texas returned to the Sprint Center this week for the Big 12 tournament. Just 1 year ago, this is where the 2021 season came to a sudden and stunning halt. We have a preview of the Big 12 men's basketball tournament that's likely to conjure some memories. The Spurs opened the second half of their season Wednesday night at Dallas. Check out our unofficial Express News First Half Awards. Called them the Spursies. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Thursday, March 11th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.